Fine, okay.
Okay,
Gotcha.
we're ready.
Ready to go.
Okay, I'd like to call this Taos Municipal School Board of Education Finance Committee meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, May 27, 2026 at 4 p.m. For the record, it is 4:25 p.m., excuse me. Could we please get a roll call?
President Flores,
Present.
Vice President Spray,
Here.
Secretary Trujillo,
Present.
Board Member King,
Here.
Board Member Concha.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. If we could please rise, I believe it's in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Our land acknowledgement statement, it is respectful to recognize the unique and enduring relationship that exists between indigenous people and their traditional territories. We acknowledge that we are on the historic homeland of the Red Willow people within the original territory of Taos Pueblo. This acknowledgement will oblige as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to respectfully recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Red Willow people whose land and water we benefit from in this great valley today. Item 5 is approval of the meeting agenda. We only have one item on the agenda, which is the fiscal year 2026-2027 Taos Municipal School Budget presentation. At this time, I will make a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented.
Second.
The second from Board Member King. Call for the roll, please.
Board Member King,
Yes.
Secretary Trujillo,
Here, and yes.
Vice President Spray,
Yes.
President Flores.
Yes. Okay, item 6, presentation, our Taos Municipal School budget for the fiscal year 2026-2027, presented by our Director of Finance, Dr. Rainier Martins. It's all yours, Mr. Martins.
But the mic doesn't work. Good, now better? Okay, great. Yeah, welcome. I would like to present to you the budgeting process and the results of the same, so the budget for fiscal year 27, with a prime focus on the general fund 11,000. First, I would like to go over the Sankey diagram just as a refresher what accounting string numbers are really important when we are analyzing a budget or when we are creating a budget. Then I would like to go into an analysis of the fiscal year 27 SEG because I believe it's very important to know from where the funding is coming for budgeting purposes. Then I would like you to show organizational charts which were very instrumental for this development of this budget and how we did this. Then I would like to give a brief overview how we develop an athletics budget, which was, I believe, new to Taos in that sense. Then I want to bring up 2 items which heavily impacted the budget. Then an overview over the 11,000 budget, and then if you have questions to a detailed budget, then we can go into that data. So let's start with the Sankey diagram again. I know that I have shown you that, but I just want to have this quick refresher. So if we are looking at the budget, we need to look what are our budget sources. And there are 2. One is the budget revenue and the other one is the cash. Now this is here the source. No? So how much cash do we have in every single fund and what do we do with the cash? And then here local, SEG, state and federal revenue. So on the one side of the budget, you have budget sources that equals cash plus expected or projected revenues, and what must equal the expenditures. So that must be the balance of the budget. Now, when the budget is balanced, and this is what PED expects from us. And on the funds, again, as a reminder, we have unrestricted funds, which is in general the general funds. That means you are in the driver's seat. You can decide what to do with this money. Whereas if we have restricted funds or capital outlay funds or debt funds, this is when where others are telling us what to do with it. bears a lot less maneuverability. So you can put an emphasis in capital outlay to say, okay, we don't want to fix this school, we want to fix another school. So that kind of decision you can make, but you couldn't say use, in example, general obligation bond money to pay salaries. That wouldn't be allowable. Also, this understanding is just important on the fund side. Then, in my personal belief, how good a budget is depends on the function. So where do we spend our money? Do we spend it primarily student-centered, or do we spend it in administrative processes, in capital outlay, in debt services, or all other functions like maintenance of plants, transportation, cafeteria, and so on? So this, where do we spend the money, I believe is a very critical point, and also the legislative has in the House Bill 2 always the key performance indicator of inside and outside the classroom. And right now, the legislative only asked us to report the percentage. In 2020, there was actually real guidance. And then object was on what do we spend the money, and also if we know where we spend the money, on what do we spend it in the classroom, and if it's people, then we go to the job class code and say, who do we pay? And then in more detail, we have more information in the accounting string, like an example for athletics, we have a column called extension. And that means, do we spend now for football or basketball boys or basketball girls and so on. So that's then more information that PED is not interested in, but it helps us to develop a good budget. So that was just a refresher for accounting speak again. Let's go back to the presentation.
Excuse me, Dr. Martins, what
Yeah.
did you call those last pictures that you had on the screen? That last picture?
This
The
is a,
Sankey diagram?
this is a Sankey diagram, yes.
Okay, at some point, would it be possible for you to give us those so we can have them in our packets to look at?
This is literally an online tool from PED.
Oh, so you don't have anything that's printable?
I mean, I can print the screen, no, but basically the power of this tool is basically if you go in there and you click here on unrestricted, so it's responsive, and now you can analyze better and better the
Oh, I
data.
see what you're saying.
So,
Because that looks very informative for
yes,
the future even learning. Thank
that's the reason why I proposed to the school board and actually also to the tribal government, if our state representatives, let it be now the House members or the senators, would put legislation in motion to basically force PED to put this webpage public, because it is public only for OBMS users, but it could be put public to the public. It's a web page, so we could open it up.
Thank you.
Also, and I suggested that several times, and I make the same suggestion.
It's interesting now that you that you brought this slide up. It's interesting because when it's all together, it's kind of hard to follow it.
Yep.
But now that you see this, and it's really it makes it makes sense because we're looking at the SEG and we're seeing.
And here I can hide the other funds to make this diagram even easier readable. So this tool is really, really powerful because here you, an example, you can see that this budget was decently balanced. You can just, you don't even need to see a number. You can see it graphically.
Yeah.
You can have a number here. No, you go in here and then you see, okay, that was 23.4 million last year. What was approved between SEG and cash, no? So this is, I believe, a very useful tool. However, PED made the decision to not put it public, and they put public open books. I could show you the webpage of open books, but I wouldn't be able to explain that data to you. Actually, it's the same data what you see here, right? But the graphical representation in open books is just pie charts, bar graphs, and stuff like that. You can't analyze accounting data like that. You need to know from where's the money coming, where is it going, and only the Sankey diagram gives you this. But the main thing was, because I will come back to the function level, but we recall function level is where do we spend the money? Why do I say we have good expenditures and necessary expenditures? So for me personally, good expenditures are inside the classroom. Why? We assume we increase the educational experience of students, and then the necessary expenditures like finance, HR, IT, maintenance, yeah, we have to do that. But the more money we can budget and expend in the classroom, obviously that's the goal. The belief is that's better.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
See, it's interesting because the SEG, it kind of flows. But you have your operational.
Yep.
And then the object, which is all of these.
This is all operational.
So
That's
yeah.
Yep.
Mainly it's the personnel, so
Yep.
it covers teachers. And instructional assistants. I couldn't see it from home there, administration, facilities,
Facilities.
so that's all that comes, but, okay, so no cash then, if I follow the cash.
no, but
what's in here.
so following, if you follow the cash, do you see here's the cash, it flows into the fund, and this is the important thing. The fund is driven by cash plus revenue. That's my whole point of the budget. So the left side of the budget is cash plus all these revenues, and then all the greenback is concentrated in this fund, right? So actually in free funds in this case, impact aid and local revenue is also a general fund. But this tells us, okay, how much money was actually available, budgeted, 6.6 million at the beginning of fiscal year 26 in this case. No, so this is here the whole point.
Looking, this is budget,
Yeah, budget.
but then you have the other one that is.
So then we could go down and then, but I don't want to go in there because we want to talk about next fiscal year, not current fiscal year. But here you can compare what we reported up to now, the actual data. So you can compare budgets to actuals and see, okay, how well do we follow the budget? Also, but as said, this tool.
Different for me, but it's interesting how you're tracking it.
Yeah.
And it's through all the input that everything in the budget that you're putting into the system is
Yeah.
flowing through here.
It-
And so it becomes an actual.
Yes, exactly. No, the actual is on the bottom, the
Yes.
budget is on the top. The power of this Sankey diagram in my belief system is it's not an Excel table with a long, just numbers, accounting string numbers, and then with a dollar sign and FTE. Most people, and also myself, cannot analyze on an Excel table very quickly a budget. The Sankey diagram gives you an immediate big picture. And then you can basically drill down literally to the Excel cell, so to speak, on that specific data. You can drill down by just clicking on these, it's called not, might call it a column, and you can drill down. But as said, I just can encourage the school board to talk to our legislative representatives and tell them, look, there is an amazing tool. We would like to have access to it. So why doesn't PED get forced to put it public? Because it's there, it's available, and it's a very good analytical tool for budget and actuals. But okay, coming back to our budget for fiscal year 27. Let's look at the SEG in more detail, please. Is it now readable for you? Readable, can you read this now? Or yeah, you should, but very difficult to print this Excel, it's very big. Okay, good. So here I put on the right side a difference, and the difference is between the current, so this fiscal year SEG, and then the SEG what we will receive next year. As you can see, there's a little tendency here in pre-K and kindergarten. We get less money. Why? Because we have less enrollment. And let me just check one quick thing. I can do that dynamically. I will compare right now the SEG units based on the current fiscal year unit value. just to give you a feeling for the data, and then I will put in the real unit value, and then you will see the impact of the SEG. But to compare a little bit apples to apples, I will leave the program unit value on the current unit value, and then I put the new value in, okay? Because I want you to see how the reality is with our student population. And if you compare now apples to apples, then you can see that the impact of losing children in pre-K and kindergarten is 88,000. And then you go into first grade. Oh, here. First grade, a little bit more, but second grade less, third grade less, fourth grade less, fifth grade less. So in elementary, we sum this up, we lost around about $150,000 in SEG in elementary schools. And that is all student enrollment driven, okay?
Dr. Martinson, that's from first grade to fifth grade, correct?
Yes, sir. And then middle school, 6, 7, 8, we are basically stable at around about 7,000. So middle school is stable student population. And then in the high school, we have a loss of $675,000 in SEG. $675,000. So if we compare apples to apples, so this would all be masked if I put in the new unit value, no? Because the unit value went up and then the money gets up. But to make it understandable how this impact is, I think this is a little bit easier to understand.
So you're using the unit value of 6,800.
I use the unit value from the current fiscal year 26, but I will switch over into the new fiscal unit value that we see, okay, what do we now really get for budget? But to understand, that's the reason why I call this point SEG analysis. First, I would like to analyze with you the SEG before we go into the budget discussion. And I believe, comparing apple to apple is better than apple to oranges when it's getting all muddled, no?
Dr. Martins, how are you guesstimating what the student population will be in each of those schools for next year? What?
No, it's following. The SEG is built up on the 80th count from fiscal year 26 and the 120th day on fiscal year 26. So I don't estimate anything for next fiscal year.
In terms of the number of kids, that just rolls the year ahead. I see.
So
I
this
understand.
I'm sorry, that is a PED call.
I understand what you said. Thank you.
Sorry, that was PED, but I put them away.
Yeah, maybe they're calling and saying, we're listening to you. You got it. Don't worry.
No, I had a question to them, but I can call them back. So this data is all real data. So there is no guesstimate, estimate,
see.
nothing. No. When we get the data for fiscal year 27, we will project what will we get in fiscal year 28.
I got it.
So that means overall, we are looking at a reduction of SEG of 480,000 due to student enrollment. So here we come to something. Here you see the real loss, or not loss, but the real less of SEG is $200,000. And what is the reason now for this? Are you familiar with the Teacher Cost Index, TCI? Do you know what that is?
Something index.
So, okay, the Teacher Cost Index is built up on the following data. We need to look at the level of licensure of our teachers and then of how many years of experience we have. Now, as you can see, that is then a percentage, and that gets multiplied with this $480,000. Let me text. I apologize. So this Teacher Cost Index, after we determined what is the level of licensure a teacher has and how many years of experience this is, when you go into State Statute 22.849, and there's a table, and when you plot this data, and you get this TCI calculated. Now, I know obviously that this data point is very important. So I, with Ms. Ortega and with Associate Superintendent Mondragon and Dr. William, I scrutinized this data, and when I personally entered this data into OBMS, and the outcome was that the TCI increased by around about 2% from last year. So now this 2% increase reduces this SEG loss from 480,000 to 212,000. So you can see how important this TCI is. That's one reason why I told all the principals and further meetings, and I come to that, how important it is that level 1 teachers are getting mentored and encouraged to level up as quickly as possible to level 2. So number one, for the teacher, it's very good because they get a significant bump in their salary. But also for the district, it's good because every level 1 teacher in the TCI is below 1. So that means every level 1 brings the TCI quite a bit down. Now the law says if your TCI is below 1, which it could be, then it's getting set at 1. So the lowest we can get is 1. But if you have a lot of level 3 teacher, then the TCI can go up to 1.3. So now just imagine you multiply the total, so 14 million times 30%. So it's a suddenly totally different budget, right? So this is the importance of the TCI and why I encourage principals and everybody, please mentor, coach everybody from level 1 to level 2 as quickly as possible. So then we go to special education, and here you see a little bit of a mixed picture of sometimes we gain, sometimes we lose, but then comes here in the rather handicapped depopulation, 3-4-year-olds, we have a real influx of kids, and that explains the big jump in SEG for special education. And then another data point is the adjusted ancillary FTE. So this is another very important data point. Do you see this number 17.73?
Can you?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
This 17.73 represents $3 million. So this number was the current fiscal year 14.4 or 5, I think. So this little bit over 3 more means $600,000 more in revenue. So you can see the importance of this little number. So this is the reason why Dr. Malacke, Ms. Ortega, myself, so I explained to them why it's very important to scrutinize the ancillary FTE reporting to PED with a fine comp. And Dr. Malacke and Ms. Ortega did that in obviously splendid ways. So we really scrutinized the data, and simply for better reporting means special ed received $800,000 more if you compare apples to apples. So here you see now a tendency for our budget. General education receives less funding. Special education receives a lot more funding, which is, I believe, relevant for planning a budget. We'll say, where do we need more people? Special education. Where do we need less people? And general education, because this is what the SEG is telling us, right? Then bilingual, because the student population went down, we get less money for the bilingual program. Overall impact $100,000 more, less, no? Fine arts, similar situation. Now in physical education, there's a following situation. When I got aware that physical education units might be threatened to be losing it because we didn't have a teacher for PE, Ms. Mondragon was able to hire a teacher, I think 1 or 2 days before the due date on ATF day. And like that, we could recover quite a bit of physical education units. So here again, this collaborative approach from your cabinet here, or our cabinet, is so important to emphasize that, let's say, my knowledge of the SEG is worthless if the other cabinet members can't act on it. But we did act, and we were able to work so well together that we could recover this PE money, which wasn't recovered last year, due to this understanding of why is it important to have a licensed PE teacher for the elementary school. It's not only that we need that for the kids, but it's also funding very relevant.
May I ask Dr. Martins, it shows there that we've lost money or have reduced.
No,
money.
in PE we got money. No, it's $32,000 apple to apple.
in
It's
the-
more.
Fine arts and multicultural.
Yes, that all losses because where everything was okay from a licensure point of view, it's simply we have less kids. Now in elementary, because we could hire an elementary PE teacher with a licensure, suddenly you could count a lot more kids. Because before we didn't have enough PE teachers when we had enough PE teachers, and therefore we could count them and therefore we got the money. If you only provide PE but you're not licensed, then we don't get SEG funding. So this is literally a collaboration between finance, HR, and instruction to know the importance and what needs to get done and when it has to be done.
So I have a question for you. So seeing there that we've lost or have reduced funding in fine arts education and multicultural education, how do we try to bring it up to where we're receiving funds instead of losing funds?
We need to have simply more students, no? But that's the key, you know. With more students, then you have more funding. If you have less students, you have less funding. But again, this analysis is just sensitizing us, okay, what do we need to, from a big picture point of view, what do we need to be concerned about? General education, special education, where do we need to put an emphasis in the budget? So this is preparing this budgeting process. That's the reason why I want to go over this overview, because I believe without that background, the budget may or may not be well developed in your opinion, but I want you to show what we did and how we think. You have a question?
A look on my face. I'm just wondering what you mean when you say general education versus, like, to me, a lot of this is part of the general overall education of the child.
Yes.
Where do you make the
So-
split?
You have a special education department and then you have non-special needs kids. So that's general education for me is all kids who are not special needs.
But you include arts, for example, and PE, all that.
So PED gives, not PED, the legislative gives us this SEG funding formula. So this is the funding formula and we are going over it. Fine arts is for any kid who is participating in the fine arts program. Elementary PE is obviously in elementary schools physical education participation. So the legislative said, okay, if a kid goes in the first grade, you get this amount of money as explained above. If this kid participates in fine arts and you have a fine arts teacher, you get a little bit more money. If it participates in elementary PE, you get a little bit more money. If this kid is not in the general population, but is special needs, then you get special needs funding additionally, and so on and so forth.
I see.
Now, school size adjustment units, that's a very important topic. Here you can see that 2 schools receive school size adjustment units. That is Arroyo, Del Norte, and Ranchos. So what is this? School size adjustment units or size adjustment units. So how does this formula work? If an elementary school has less than 200 kids, then one receives these school size adjustment units. It's a rational function. That means the maximum of school size adjustment units you can receive is exactly at 100. At 200, you get 0. At 0 students, you get obviously 0. If you look at, please, at my hands, it looks a little bit like this. So in the middle, you have a rather big plateau, and this middle is between around about 80 to 120, where you get more or less similar amount of funding. And if you are then going beyond these inflection points, then the school size adjustment units are really going down. So then you get less and less and less on both ends, no? Because the optimum is at 100. So 100 students is financially the optimum for school size adjustment units. So that,
Dr. Martins, is this extra funding outside of the normal?
yes. So
We
that's
get
not
the
typically,
SEG.
and as you can see, Taos Middle School doesn't receive it, Inos Garcia doesn't receive it, so Arroyo del Norte and Ranchos receive it because PED determined, aha, you are below 200 students. How many students do you have? Goes into the funding formula, and then you get extra money because the school size is small.
Students is
That's the optimum. Below 200, you start to get money. With 1 student, you also get money, but obviously very, very little. And when it increases somewhat, and then basically the plateau from my knowledge is around about between 80 and 120. So at 100 you get maximum, but if you go to 80, 120, you are not very far away from the maximum. But the further you go away from the 100, then it really drops. It starts to drop steeply. But I've been told that these school size adjustment units, this term wasn't really present here in Taos, right? So at the high school, basically, if you had this high school with less than 400 students, then you would also get school size adjustment units. So our high school has here still 709, so that means we don't get anything. Our school district is rather small. It's below 4,000. That's the reason why we get district size adjustment units, which is also relevant. No, it's 1 million, but of course, again, a little bit less. Why? Because the optimum here is at 2,000, and the further we go away from 2,000, the less we get. We got less than last year because we have less students. So also that is relatively shrinking.
So we do get some funding, it's just not as much as the 2,000.
Yeah, so we get over a little bit over shy of 1 million, but the optimum would be at 2,000, but we are not there yet. And an example, if a district now drops below 1,800 or 1,700, then you will see that this $1 million will shrinking faster. Because again, it's again a rational function, and it's the same curve, so to speak. No. Now, rural population, that's again multiplier with our population, and again, yeah, it's less. At risk, quite a bit less, no, over $200,000 less, again, driven by less student participation. Growth units, we don't budget. National board, yeah, we have the same amount of national board teachers. That's stable, essentially. Then homeschool students and charter school students. So when I got aware that charter school students participate in district activities, I said, okay, are we reporting that to PED? And again, this teamwork, people didn't know that we should report it. Why? Because get funding for this. So, okay, it's not much. It's overall right now looks like $9,500 on the other side. This is literally for, activities essentially. So if we can receive the funding, why shouldn't we, right? So this is something where, again, Ms. Ortega, in this case also Johnny Olguin and myself and the principals from a Midland High School work together to get this data into PowerSchool to report it accurately to PED that we get this funding. K5 plus and all of that, nothing, because we are teaching less than 180 days. And then the ELL learners, again, due to the shrinking student population, we got less money. And then overall, we would get $300,000 more if we compare apples to apples. And I want you to remind, the main driver of the increase was special education, right? So to keep that in mind. Now, what is now the reality? I take now the real unit value, plug it in. So now we see, oh, we get $1.2 million more in SEG with a new unit value. But again, main driver was special education. So that's the reason why I wanted to show you the old value to compare apples and apples. And then we see, oh, great, we have 1.2 million more in SEG, but why?
I have a question. It might be a dumb question, but why are those numbers in red versus other numbers are in green? When I see red, I think of a negative, but you're saying that that's
no, that's good. So sorry, my conditional formatting in that Excel wasn't done to perfection.
Oh, no, that's fine. Just so that is a positive though. We are.
Yes, it's a positive number. We got 1.2 million
Then
more.
I was confused on so when you have it in the parentheses, that's a negative.
Yes, that's a negative.
President Flores, I had the same question when you start working with budgets. When you have the negative, so to speak, that's what you start with, and then you're drawing down or you're spending down from your account. So I had the very same question at the very start when you start looking at red, you look at it and say, we're short.
Okay.
So I want to go out with number one. We got 1.2 million more in SEG, but main driver was special education. General education in general got quite a bit less funding. So in relation, no?
Let me ask you this though. So special education brings us more money, but we want to bring kids out of special education through the process. We don't want to, with all due respect, attract more special education or keep kids in special education
Of course
for
not.
funding purposes. So
So the question is now, how do we now budget? So if we need to reduce expenditures, the question is where to reduce expenditures. The easy answer is, of course, overhead. So when outside the classroom, that's the easy answer, of course. But if it's outside the classroom is squeezed, then okay, when it's inside the classroom, but where? And the where is then okay. It's the cabinet use the SEG-driven approach. So if we need to save money, we should not save money in special education. Actually, the opposite. Why? We have so many special needs kids. And it's not about keeping them there, but getting them out. So how do you get them out? Providing them the services, providing them what they need, which the SEG says, hey, here's the money. It's your decision how you spend it. It's local autonomy, But I believe it helps you to see, okay, why did I say, or why do I say, and the cabinet says we should not cut in special education, actually the contrary, and we should, if we have to save money in administration and inside the classroom, but in general education. And it's all SEG driven. That's the reason why I wanted to go over this SEG analysis to understand the why. So let's go back to this. Now, some items impacting really negatively our budget. House Bill 37 says that the district has to shoulder now 80% from all benefits. So now following, this is also something new for towers. The finance team, we created a sandbox. So we say we have a database, visions database, where we are able to run the full fiscal year 27 payroll. So, and then Ms. Segura configured all the to be hired and the current employees to our best ability for the benefits, because I told them, look, we cannot estimate your benefits, we need real data. So we configured all our employees and the to be hired employees with the benefits as accurately as we can. And then we run the whole fiscal year 27 payroll. And then the outcome is that in this fiscal year, we will spend around about $6,070,000 in benefits. And next year, we will spend around about $7.2 million in benefits. So that means we have an increase of almost 1.1 million or 1.115 million. You remember our SEG increased by 1.2 million? And one main driver was that the legislative said, oh yeah, we do this benefit thing. That's the reason why you get more SEG. But here you can see it's almost not enough to cover that, right? So all our SEG increase is already eaten up with a benefit thing. So that's a major thing which is impacting this budget, no?
question. So the remaining amount that we need to find to cover that difference, is that coming from cash?
I go into that. It's a blend. It's savings, cash, everything. No, but I want you to know that first, when I saw 1.2 million SEG, I'm like, oh, that sounds good. Then I look at the benefit, now it doesn't sound so good anymore.
So I have a question. So is that, since those numbers are so similar, is that probably why the legislature
Yeah.
changed both? Yeah, to
Yes.
make it
That
even out more.
That was the main reason why we increased the total pot. No,
Yeah.
the SEG funding increased by a little bit.
Got it. Thank you.
That was one of the main drivers. Now, the other little bit shocking item for myself was the NIPSIA bill. So I thought it increased by 10%. I was unfortunately wrong. It's 29%. So it's almost 30% more. $340,000 more NIPSIA. And I picked up the phone and asked them, yeah, you know, guys, your salaries increased really a lot in 26. So your bill for NIPSIA really goes up a lot. So, but
What makes the number go up?
the salary increase from this fiscal year. There was a steep increase of salary payments from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26. Remember that you approved, I think, 8% for teachers and all of that. So now here comes an extra bill.
So is this kind of a reoccurring theme here? Every time that salaries go up, NIMSIA goes up?
Yes.
And how does that correlate? Is it NIMSIA our insurance authority?
Yeah, we have to use them. Yeah, we have no other authority. We must use them. They send us the bill and that's it, and you pay.
I guess I'm having trouble understanding though, when salaries go up, why is NIMSIA raising their rates?
No, it's not the rates, they say, because it's a factor in their formula to calculate our rates. So I can show you that in detail.
So it has nothing to do with the settlement increases.
All of that. So here you have a detailed of a NIPSIA calculation. So what NIPSIA is doing is, they say workers' comp is this, general liability is that, property is this, vehicles is this, buses is that, and the total is 1.5 million. So this is the invoice I got, and what I did here, now I split it up between the school sites to know, okay, how much money who is shouldering. So how many employees are working for workers' comp in your school and at administrative building and so on and so forth to figure out for the budget, okay, your SEG budget for Arroyos, the schools is this much, and you get tagged with a NIPSIA bill of that amount. And this is how I split this cost up, to be fair. An example, it would be unfair to just say, okay, I take NIPSIA divided by 6. They say every school and the administration gets the same bill. And a school site like Arroyos would be walked over, right? Because we are very small. We shouldn't have such a big NIPSIA bill. So here I really very detailed calculated what should be your part based on the NIPSIA formula to budget that accurately per school site and administration. No, makes sense, but it also makes sense that it's scary to see $300,000 more. Because now we are at 1.5 million more expenditures, right? But we only got 1.2 million. So we already have a revenue problem, right?
What I appreciate is the fact that you were able to break this down per school site.
Yeah, of course. So I needs to
So
be.
Dr.
Because he's crazy, he does stuff like that.
So Dr. Martins, if we increased our buses or our vehicles or anything like that,
Goes up.
so, okay.
No, and yeah, I was, because it's such a big, you remember I even put the NIPSIA payment on the school board to say, okay, for that payment, I would like to have your approval to increase the limit, and you agreed as long as we inform you it's okay. Similar with bond payment. And why did I ask specifically NIPSIA? Because in, I think, in July or August, yeah, we need to pay 1.5 million in one shot. And that's then relevant also for a cash discussion we need to have. So how much cash do we need to have to, in example, finance NIPSIA? Because we finance NIPSIA, so to speak, front-loaded for the whole year, no? So then one very important thing is, and I apologize, I can blow it up, but not right now, organizational charts. So when you look at the payroll and you run the whole year payroll, then of course the question is, which employee is where? So then Ms. Associate Superintendent Mondragon, Director William, Royal, and myself, and the principals, so each principal we were sitting down together to analyze the organizational chart. So why is this so important? Number one, Taos should not budget a person, but budget a position. And that's a huge difference in the thinking. So if you budget a person, you think, yeah, you can move a person just wherever and it's all good, and that doesn't work in budgeting. You budget a position, you put a name into this box of a position. If you want to move a person, then you take the person out of this box and put it in the adequate position where you want to have them. And that has all to do with budget and the accounting string. If you just move the whole box, then suddenly nothing works anymore, no? Because the budget thinks you're here, but effectively you're doing something different. That was number one, this understanding of position budgeting. Number two, we detected that let's say, a major cleanup needs to be done between this fiscal year and next fiscal year regarding position management. So we had a lot of inaccurate data in the database. The positions weren't maintained. So now we have a fresh start for fiscal year 27 that we truly have positions. And we have detected that people, no, this person is not even working at my school. This person is working at that school. No, at my school, it's only working 2 days a week. And at the other school, they are working 3 days a week. So, okay, all of that we detected by using this organizational chart and looking down on the funding string, how much funding comes from which school side, how much funding comes from which fund, to clean up all of this position management and to determine how many positions can we actually afford at the school side. So you have seen, I showed you the global SEG, but I broke down the SEG also per school side, and I showed the principals, look, this is the total SEG. Now, your contribution to this SEG based on your school side data is this amount. And that was an eye-opener for the principals to see, yeah, okay, how much revenue actually based on my student population do I get from the SEG, and how much money do I have? And with this money, I need to run my school. And yeah, that's very difficult discussions, of course, to see the revenue side. And now comes the biggest part is salaries, of course. And then this organizational chart per school side helps to, number one, clean up. That was the discussion. No, this person is not working here, it's working there. I'll get him or her off my budget. It's somebody else. I can't finance somebody from a different school side. So that helped tremendously to build up this budget, this discussion to figure out how many positions do we have? Where are the people really working to get all of this planned? And again, in fiscal year 26, I can't fix the data. No, this is all run. But the setup for fiscal year 27 will be obviously a lot cleaner. I avoid the word perfect, because there might be always a mistake somewhere, but it will be a lot better. So this looks then in reality, so not on a PowerPoint like this. So here can you read this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here you can see the information I provided. No, so there's the position number, the name, the title, then on how many days a person works. The one means FTE1, and then comes the accounting string, and then we could discuss, okay, is the accounting string, is the funding actually correct? And like that, we went with the principals over every single school side. So here you can see that that's now instruction, central administration. That would be looking like this for the high school. Yeah, of course.
So that number that's the very last number,
No,
like 218, 192, is that the employee number?
No. There are no employee numbers in here. The 2582, that is a position number, and the 192, this is my Excel number to create this organizational chart. So at the beginning, I needed, let's say, 40 FTE hours to create an organizational chart. Then I learned a little bit something, and now I can produce such a chart in around about half an hour by whenever we run now a new payroll, a mock payroll, then I can replicate the newest organizational chart, and then I can hand it over, hopefully next fiscal year, to HR to maintain this chart. And this chart shall be given to all principals that they know, okay, who is actually at your school? Because, I mean, some schools, like the high school, we have many employees. Do you really know all your employees? Do you know that they show up to work, and so on and so forth?
How do you identify the employee that is in that position without putting their name there? Do they have a number?
Yeah, sorry, here.
And we just have to be careful, Dr. Martins,
Yeah.
for salaries and
Yeah, no, there's no salary data.
identifiable information.
No, there's no salary data here. No, this is literally an organizational chart.
Thank you for sharing that.
No, but yeah, the whole idea is, of course, going back SEG, understanding what's going on in SEG, breaking it down per school side. And an example, it was a eye-opener for the high school principal and the middle school principal when I told them, when they go to the athletic budget, all of money comes from your SEG, because athletics doesn't have any program units. No, we went over it. There's not one factor giving us money for the athletic program. From where is all this money coming? Okay, who is participating in the athletics program? That is the high school and the middle school kids, primarily high school. So high school, you think you have that SEG, I need to text you, or the athletic program, you have less SEG. That's the reality of athletics, no?
Is this the first time that they've had an organizational chart? That,
So Secretary Trujillo, yes, this is the first time we've had an organizational chart to this level. We've had it on the broader scope, administration, but this is what's called in districts position control management. And it's very difficult to get a district into this because you have to go down to every single position, funding source, percentage. And so this is what pretty much we did with the principals, with directors, with cabinet for the last 3 months, 3 or 4 months, with Dr. Martin's staying here pretty late almost each day to get to this point where we know exactly how many positions are by school site, what those positions are, where they're funded by. So should there be a vacancy, it's no longer just, let me create a vacancy, or I think I need a position. It's a position control. So now you can't just create one. You have to have a vacancy for a position control and know the funding source. Or you can't just transfer an EA from one school site to another without knowing that it impacts their SEG. But it is very difficult. And to answer your question, we have never gotten to this level of individual position control for the entire district.
I just have a quick question. You are, I assume, not done with every employee at Taos Municipal Schools yet on our organizational chart, or are you done with
Yes.
all of them? You're
Yeah.
done with all of them?
Yeah, they're all
Wow.
included. Well, because as said, by having this sandbox, this provisional database, it's called in technical terms, by having this provisional database, we were able to configure every single employee. I mean, literally, I run the whole fiscal year 27 payroll in around about 1 hour. And then I have the newest data for every single org chart, so to speak, that data, but also for our budget. So when I say with confidence, okay, the budget I will present to you later regarding the salaries, I'm very confident that that is very much on the dot as long as we would follow the plan. We say, can we staff everything? Do we keep everybody on board and so on and so forth? No, but the positions are fully budgeted, the positions. Now, who is working in the position to be defined, obviously, no? But yeah, the whole idea is, as Dr. Lehten said, is Visions has position control. It was never active. But of course, my goal is to have position control active next fiscal year. And that's the reason why I said, first of all, I need to know where is actually everybody working. So an example, I found employees without a position control number. Or I found many position control numbers with nothing in there. So that's the reason why I said we need to learn to think, we budget for a position, and then it's on the principals and the management to find the correct person for that position. So you don't fund me, Martins, you fund director of finance. Who is the director of finance is your decision, and you certainly give feedback to the superintendent, what you like or dislike. But the main point here to take home is, please, we budget a position, and then HR, principals, management put the accurate human resource into this position.
President Flores. I say that because I'm seeing that this is such a, it's linked to your salary schedule. And so then your salary schedule is linked to your personnel.
Yep.
Yeah,
All of it is done.
and then it's linked to your actual budget because every person is accounted for.
Yeah.
And so this is such an accounting, to me, I'm looking at it as an accounting tool. And I think that it'll present itself very well to auditors because they'll be able to see the trail, the accounting trail of a
Yes.
person, of a position, and of the person, but it just makes for good accounting standards to be able to account for everything that is being done money-wise, but how it's linked to the person, to the position, like you said, to the school, to the individual schools.
Yeah.
So this is really, really beautiful. It's a beautiful concept that is presented well.
Secretary Trujillo, to add to that a little bit, so when you have a position that is split funded, you know exactly from what federal fund or what state fund specifically these positions are going, so you can't just decide one day, you're going to the next level. Well, there's funding sources involved.
Yeah, funding, and then the funding sources.
Mhm.
And per CBA, I already updated. So this data is with the updated salary schedules. So the CBA contract is already contemplated. All the updates of the salary schedule for fiscal year 27 is in the Sandbox database. So that's the reason why I say with confidence the payroll data, the budget presented to you, is really good data, I believe. I mean, it can't be perfect, as you know, because I don't know if somebody stays on or not stays on and something happens. No, but the data is really solid. And the reason is the benefits were accurately set for fiscal year 27. The salary schedules were updated for fiscal year 27. And we run, all the, 34, I think 34 payrolls, because we have 24, 1, 2, 3, 4, and stuff like that. So all payrolls are run, but we have, so literally I mock the complete payroll for fiscal year 27 for this budget.
Really, really good. Thank you.
And here you can basically see how complex our organizational chart is and how long. That's the reason. So page 1 is the complete organization. But then I broke it up in instruction, Taos High School and all the school sites to have this very productive discussion and understanding from the principals, okay, how much money do you bring in? Who's working at your site? And can you afford this? And if you can't afford it, what now? Let's go back to the presentation. Then another thing, what I've been told was completely new is Johnny Olguin, so the athletics director, and I said, okay, we need to analyze our expenditures in athletics and plan that. So this is what we did. So the athletic budget is also in Excel, and that was a true collaboration. So first of all, I want you to show this is an overall. So you have this budget in your documents. However, you have this budget in accounting Chinese. This is the accounting Chinese, what I mean. So now that athletics and normal folks can deal with the budget, we did the following. And this is where Johnny Olguin was really, really helpful. Let's go to football as an example. So he determined I have a varsity program, I have a JV program, AKA high school, you will need to pay that from your SEG, right? In other sports, you have also middle school. That means middle school needs to pay that. In the accounting speak, you decide that by the location code. High school 165, middle school 164. So like that, I can track it per middle and high school. So now he said, okay, I have some home games, Taos, and I have out of, thank you, away games. Okay, when away games, I asked operations, so transportation, very helpful. Okay, what will you charge? How much money is that? If the kids need to move from here to near, you know already we'll be moving on the August 21st, you need to move the football players to Projaka. What's the cost for that? And like that, basically, for every single trip, it was calculated, okay, what's the cost for that? What's the meal for that? Do you need rooms and all of that? And for home games, how many custodians do you need? How much security do you need? Do you need event workers? And then do you need referees? Do you need medical folks? What's the total for the home games? Then who are the coaches? How much is the coaches? What on supplies and materials do you need? Yeah, and then you come out at a total budget. Sorry, you can't read that right now. Doesn't want to give me that. Okay. So that program is around about $111,000, no, just football. And like that, we did that for every single program, soccer boys, soccer girls, and so on and so forth. It's always the same Excel. And then I run all of that data and put it together into the overall budget. And then I know what it is. And now for the stipends and all of that, what I did is I didn't use this data because the stipend is just the gross amount. The benefits are missing. So that means all the coaches, stipends for the coaches and all of that, I run through payroll data. So just as explained, so all of that is in the mock database configured, because if I only would budget the stipend, I lack the benefits, right? So, and the athletic budget is around about 1.2 million, so I didn't want to have a major problem there in the budget. So that's the reason why I had to run all the stipends for the coaches through the payroll process. But this is how we develop this athletics budget to know, does it come from middle school SEG? Does it come from high school SEG? And how much actually it is? And now athletics has a true budget. And when Coach Olguin, or athletics director Olguin and all the head coaches met, he invited me and I reminded everybody, look, if anybody from you wants to do a Herrera trip, don't forget to collect the money for it, because one Herrera trip is already out of your budget. This is all only if you provide us enough CDL drivers and if we use our own activity buses, because Herrera is really expensive. So it's a real problem. But yeah, now athletics has a budget, can follow a budget, and if we need more money, then we need to fundraise.
Impressive, very impressed.
And President Flores, Vice President Spray, members of the board, this is really the first time, I believe, that we've had our athletics program that has budgets down, not in general, but down to the sports and the site, correct? And what is the cost for an away trip? What is the cost for a home game? This is a first one. So this is really an eye-opener for our coaches. And I did get a feedback from our meeting that they knew exactly what they could buy now and what money they're going to use. So if they're going to buy caps or they're going to buy more shirts or whatever the case may be, they know what their budget is. So if they want to exceed that, then they're looking at fundraising mechanisms.
But I've been told that was also really important. So that's the reason why, again, without Johnny Olguin, all of that wouldn't be possible. Because I could give a framework, but I obviously lack the knowledge. How many coaches do you need? Where are your games? How much supplies? I provided the framework. The real work, from my point of view, the real work was done by Johnny Olguin and Ashley Cordova. No, I just facilitated with Excel. I'm decent in Excel, I guess.
Do you ever not do Excel on everything?
No, I also do Word chain letters, so HR will support with the contracts that we don't have to produce one letter by hand. We have an Excel database, and then we can put it into the template and produce the 290 contracts in half an hour instead of several days. No, so it's also Word and other stuff. Yeah. Now, so here, do you remember when I said the function is so very important inside the classroom, outside the classroom? So the budget presented to you is the following. Inside the classroom, we propose to spend around about 73%. To give you a data point, this fiscal year, it was around about 65%. When outside the classroom, 26 or almost 27%. That means between SEG and, thank you, between SEG and our cash reserves, we would draw from our cash reserves $880,000 from a budgetary point of view. So that would leave us with around about 5.5 million. And that means we would be in the target of between 2 and 3 months of cash. So why do I say that's the target to have 2 or 3 months on cash on hand? I come back to the NIPSIA bill as one example. We need to pay 1.5 million. And if we don't have this cash on hand, we can't make the payment, right? So that means our bank, so to speak, the internal bank is a general fund. And this around about 5.5 million, so at least 2 months of SEG. No, SEG is around about $2.3 million, no? We need this to finance all the expenditures for Title I, all the expenditures for Medic Aid, all the expenditures for IDIB, all the expenditures for NIPSIA payment, and so on and so forth. So if we have to pay the bills before we can get money back. No, in NIPSIA, we just have to pay the bill at the beginning of the year, even though we get the money over all these months distributed. No, we don't get a special big SEG at the beginning of the year. It's always the same thing. But NIPSIA says, I don't want to have the premium every month. I want the premium at the beginning. That's the financing cost. Then Title I, IDIB, all the flow-through funds, everything what flows through, and that's millions of dollars. We need to first spend the money, then we need to put in the receipts, and then we get the money back. So this is the reason why also PED says in the budget analysis, an entity should have at least 1 month, not more than 3 months. But if you're below 1 month, if the SEG, an example, is late and you don't have any cash, or how do you want to make payroll? Okay, Alamogordo, I explained that, no, uses capital outlay to do that, an example. No, so yeah, you have money, but this money is not for payroll. So that's a really gray, bad area to be. That's the reason why my strong recommendation to the superintendent was always, you need to have between 2 and 3 months in cash in the general application fund just to be able to finance your operation all the time and to make the bills pay. So now, why do I say from a budgetary point of view, we might use cash reserves? Number one, I don't know how much interest we will generate next year for operational, no, to be determined by the interest rates. So I don't know. Then indirect cost rates. So an example, this year, I so to speak forfeited for IDIB indirect cost. Why? We needed all that money for the special ed kids. And I said, look, if you give me indirect cost for my administrative cost, but actually your kids need the money, I need to make do in administration with what I need to make do. I want to keep the money with you with the special needs kids. No, so indirect cost depends on how well the federal money is spent in the sense of can we recover indirect cost or not. Now, indirect cost is all based on one function, 2,500. So the federal government per CFR, so Code of Federal Regulation 34, I think it's 200. In a nutshell, says numerator 2,500, denominator everything else. That's the indirect cost rate. It will be a little bit relevant when we talk about 2,500. But here overall, I want to emphasize, so number one, emphasis clearly spending in the classroom. Anything stuff, I put away from operational and I put it into SB9. Because from SB9, you can't pay salaries. It's another thing I would like you to consider as a school board to talk to the legislator. The Senate Bill 9 money, and so 31,700 funds, we are allowed to hire people through an outside company to do maintenance. But we are not allowed to pay our own maintenance crew salaries. So in my opinion, that doesn't make any sense. The Senate Bill 9 money, so your local tax money, should be allowable to pay salaries for our maintenance people, because if we can pay maintenance people from a company, why shouldn't we be able to pay salary for our maintenance folks? And as you can see, 2,600, $2.8 million, primarily also salary driven, is a big portion. So now just imagine we could use, which we have, our Senate Bill 9 money, that's the 2% mill levy rate on Senate Bill 9. We could use that for salary, what kind of impact that would have in our classroom. So suddenly, I believe the 2.8 million could be easily 1.8 million and 1 million more in the classroom. That would make a huge difference in the classroom, I believe, if we would just be allowed to use our Senate Bill 9 money for our own employee salaries, which we are not. But that is a legislative question, obviously, no? But for your consideration. Now, for fiscal year 25, in function 2000, more than $2 million were spent. So now, number one, finance reduced obviously the amount to external consultants in a significant amount. And then the other thing, when I started here, Dr. Leighton said, Martins, there are 2 positions not staffed in your department, the grant manager position and the second accounts payable position. And my answer was, yes, I need to get the work done, but I can't hire anybody because I believe we can't afford it. And the superintendent looked at me, really? I looked at the data and I'm not feeling comfortable in hiring administrators in my department. I'm not. So I didn't do that, as you know. So that's the other reason why this number is comparatively really low, because I run the finance department with 2 less positions and less consultants, obviously. So from the money amount, not from the head amount, but from the money amount, it's a significant less. President Flores.
So with not having those positions, you're shouldering more of the load and staff is all due respect, doing some additional work.
Yeah, we are a little bit overworked. We do run overtime, and I requested overtime because one position is vacant. So the third position is currently vacant. I come to that also later. What I would like to I requested from the superintendent to allow me to hire and why. But in 2,500. So look, my main thing is when I had discussions with the principal, and in some cases I needed to say you need to save money, but just that you know. The first person who really saved on possessions in my belief system was me. So I want you to know that I'm listening to my own preaching, so to speak, but since the beginning by cutting in my department. And of course, my hope is when we configure the software accurately, that my people and myself will not be as overworked as we are currently. So currently, I'm certainly at my limits, but also my people are definitely stretched thin.
You are looking to hire somebody, I hope?
For one position, which is currently a little bit difficult, but you will see it in some minutes, who we propose to hire, or what positions, not who, but what positions we propose to hire. So next slide is about that. Now, the other big thing in 2,500 is the following sad situation. So in Title I, 24,101, the revenue was following Ms. Eager, Director Eager, 1.3 million. This year we budgeted 740,000. It's almost $600,000 less in Title I. And in 24,106, following the last census, the Taos Municipal School District is not anymore a poor district, so we don't get any 24,106 money. That's another $250,000 less for us from this year to next year, and so on and so forth. So long story short, 2,500 now carries half a load of Director Eager's salary because she can't be funded anymore from Title I. We need the Title I money inside the classroom, not for an administrator. So SEG 2,500. Finance, HR, IT needs to shoulder that. Then all professional development was, it's a little bit complicated. So professional development for instructional people per the federal financial handbook guidance needs to be budgeted in 2,200. It is logical because the assumption is if you develop professional teachers and EAs, the students will have a better instructional experience. That's the logic. Now, if we provide professional development for administrators, principals, superintendents, myself, maintenance folks, and all of that, it's outside the classroom because that won't necessarily increase the experience inside the classroom. Now, per the federal handbook, all of this professional development should only be budgeted in 2,500. Why? Because professional development is essentially a human resource function, right? So now in New Mexico and also in Taos, it was always spread over all the functions. And most business managers told me, Martins, don't close. Sorry, I was the director at PED for setting up the OCOA. Don't close the other functions. We want to distribute the professional development over all the functions because most school boards think if it's 2,500, the cost is very high, then you make me look bad. So, okay, I make myself look bad, but I want you to know in this function 2,500, which is traditionally only seen as HR, IT, and finance, we are now shouldering in this function also one director level who can't be paid from a federal program anymore, and all the professional development for all non-teaching personnel. So why do I do this? Because I know that 2,500 numerator divided by everything else is our indirect cost rate. Now, of course, if the indirect cost rate goes up and if the federal government money gives us enough, then I can recover indirect costs. So that's the reason why I do it like this.
President Flores, Vice President Spray, members of the board, I want to commend the finance department that's worked with instruction, that's worked with the different departments, because what it looks like is we are going to be able to increase the amount of budget SEG into the classroom by about 9%, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, around about, so 8%.
8%. So we're increasing the amount of funding that's going towards the classroom by 8% from last year to this year. So I want to commend them because the important piece is money is going into the instructional component, more so than it has before. And there's a sweet spot that Dr. Martins mentioned at the beginning of the year that he was targeting, and I believe we've been able to hit it.
I asked, I said I would like to go to 70%, and look, the really big districts, so the big leagues. So who is that? APS primarily with $1 billion. APS can achieve up to 80% in the classroom, economy of scale, of course. Las Cruces, Gadsden, so these big school districts, they are targeting 75% to give you, so it's old data, so this is, please don't say that this is now happening, but in the old data, West Las Vegas, East Las Vegas, they were at around about 65 to 66%, to give you a perspective. So if we are here proposing 73% in the classroom, so I'm personally pretty proud about that. Now, for hiring new positions, currently my CPO position is vacant, not vacant, it's not staffed, let me phrase it like that. And I do need a CPO. So on that one, I told the superintendent, yeah, I do need a CPO. And then you can see the following. EAs, primarily is it for special education. Life skill is also related to that. So if you go through this list, essentially you will see there's one community school coordinator funded from a federal fund, one custodian from ENOS where we are short. So right now the custodians run a lot of overtime because we are short one person. So that's the reason why we need to budget this position. And I believe it's 2 teachers at the high school short due to, as said, through the organizational chart, there was a lot of movement and these 2 positions need to be filled for instructional purposes. And then all the other positions are effectively supporting special education, with one exception, the secretary and medical assistant for Arroyos. That position shall also be hired. So these are the proposed positions to be hired. They're currently not filled. Yeah. It's a little bit of a mixed funding because I believe in the.
Thank you. I have been told that they are all to be paid from the federal community school grant.
It's a little bit more complex. So the community school grant, there's a federal grant, there's a state grant, and then there's some cost sharing, you call that, I guess, from the SEG money. But for fiscal year 27, I try to minimize the cost sharing as much as I can, obviously, because the community school coordinator is an administrator, so outside the classroom. And if I see a chance to get a salary financed from a different fund, then I use that. So, and it's also like this, it's a little bit difficult currently. Why? Not all federal funds have provided to us how much revenue we really will get. So we budget as good as we can, but if PED gives us next week, okay, for this federal fund, you get more money and I can relieve the budget in 11,000, then yes, I will take the liberty to reduce expenses if I can cover from a federal fund or from a different state grant. Also, so whatever I can do to bite less into the cash reserve, I will do that, of course. Also, what's presented to you is the most realistic scenario right now, but it will have impact. So an example, the transportation budget. Right now, it's the best guess. Transportation, the real budget, I can determine in September when PED is telling us how much money we will really give us. So right now, that's the best we have. But yeah, I don't know what they really give us in September because we wait for the 40 FD participation and then they give us the money. So today, best guess. But any questions regarding the positions? Yeah, and then, yeah, I stay open for questions about, if you have questions about the detailed, any details in the budget. If you have questions.
I do have one question. It's not exactly tied to the budget, but it's more in regards to succession planning. I know you've been doing a lot of training with the various school administrators and various teachers and, across the district. I would have a concern at some point in time, you're not going to be our finance
So
director.
I don't want to get a heart attack, okay?
Forever. No, no. I just like, us board members aren't going to serve on this board forever, and Superintendent Lay and, everybody is not going to be here forever. And you've done so much positive work that cannot even be described at this moment, but I would like to just ask you, how are you going about succession planning in the event that your time here
So,
comes
yeah,
to
I
an
have an answer for that. So number one is, I'm not setting the system up alone. My assistant director, Nicole Rael, former Cardenas, and I, you remember that you authorized the Tyler contract with Tyler Consultant. So tomorrow we meet them again, or that person again. So she is literally in every single session, and she is understanding now the importance of the account string, the importance of user roles, the importance of DAX, how all of that works together. Then in the system, we need to configure, it was 9 or 10 workflows or 11 workflows that never was used, that was never configured. So we are all on that. She is already understanding, and she will be configuring the budget control groups. So she now understands what the budget control group is, and I don't want to configure that. Maybe I'm faster, but it's not about speed, it's about quality, and she is really good. She is actually currently the CPO, reported to the state. Extra duty on her, by the way. That she understands the system. So my assistant and I, the goal is that she has the same knowledge as I, given time. That's number one. Number two, currently I'm documenting certain parts, but not into the depth like I showed you how I documented the payroll, right? So but the goal is that these manuals, like I developed that for the payroll, will be developed for every single thing. So an example, how I do the budgets, how I do the Excel stuff. I'm working on manual steps that people can work with the system. And then the other thing is she also she created actually the true fiscal year 27 provisional database. So an example, the budget presented to you, I didn't upload it up to now in the operational fiscal year 27 database because it's not approved by you. But we trained ourselves with now the real fiscal year 27 database with a new accounting strength, with a DAG, how to upload all of this. And she created this database. I didn't. I did the other one. So they say, yes, I train one specific person here because she's my assistant director, and she's absolutely capable of helping me and supporting me configuring the system. And of course, it's a learning curve for her. It's a learning curve for me too. I never worked with visions before in my life. No, please don't forget. And I will not say that we set up fiscal year 27 perfectly, but I do believe that we set it up way better. And then fiscal year 28 will be better, and fiscal year 29 will be better.
So President Flores, Vice President, if I may answer that question a little bit more in a roundabout way. We're trying to create systems and processes in place so that no matter who sits in our chairs, the person after us can slide in and work, have a less of a learning curve, and so on and so forth. So we're working at that at all the different department sites to build that structure so that no matter who sits in our seats after us, they can function more efficiently.
Well, Dr. Martins, I just want to commend you. You've taken on a big role here at the district. You've done a tremendous amount of work. I'm extremely impressed. This budget presentation and the previous budget presentations you've been giving to us are very detailed and very comprehensive. You've taken on multiple roles. You're a trainer, you're a custodian because you're cleaning up the data. You're a builder. You've been building things and creating formats and spreadsheets and numerous things that I'm not aware of, that I can't even pretend to speak about, that I know about. So I just want to thank you. You come to the district, and I'm a man of faith by the grace of God, to be honest with you. Very much so, because we found ourselves through this forensic audit, and as you've seen with our finances, that they needed a miracle worker, and you're making miracles happen for the district, and through your work. It's my vision that I see you setting this district and this community up for success. If we're able to carry the load, at some point in time when we all leave these seats, somebody could pick up the pieces and continue to build upon it. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
In light of what you just said, next time you give us a bunch of paper like this that says fund, function, object, et cetera, could you give us a sheet on top that identifies what the fund relates to in terms of what it actually means to us, like
Yeah,
EAs or whatever it's
Yeah,
gonna be?
no, I can.
That
give
would
you-
be helpful, because
Yeah,
I couldn't get much from all of this without knowing what the fund meant, what the name of the fund was.
yeah.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
And my comment is on that cash reserve, the use of the cash reserve. And that's a little alarming, the 878,253.47. And again, we shouldn't have that, but we do. Right now-
Secretary Trujillo, if I may, Dr. Martins, had we not made a few of these proposals, what would have been the impact on our cash reserve?
Well, can I?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Because
Yeah.
I realized that we had to do it. There was no way that we could balance this budget without those cash reserves. And what that's saying is that, again, we are looking to have, again, from what I heard from the presentation, is we need cash to be liquid cash, to be able to pay payroll, to be able to pay the bills that we have. So that's where my cash reserve comes in. But if it's going to dwindle down, if it's not going to accumulate, then in 2 or 3 years, there's not going to be a cash reserve, and there's not to meet the budget that is in place. So that's going to be
So,
a little concerning, and so it's going to have to remain very, very watchful for us.
so I fully agree with your statement, but please also recall I mentioned that the cash reserves are also budgeted for positions, quite a bit of positions which are not filled. So on the one side, I hope, of course, that we fill in because we are really important. On the other, so that's my instructional heart. The cold finance person says, the longer we don't fill a position, the easier is my cash position also. But I would definitely prefer if we can hire. That doesn't mean that we need to work this year. I believe fiscal 27 shouldn't be an issue. If we continue this trend of always biting into this budget, into the cash reserve, yes, long term, that would be a problem. But the current year's challenges should then be behind us and give us enough time to again revisit the organizational chart, revisit the operational, so 2,600, revisit maybe applying for more grants and so on and so forth. What else can we do to get more revenue? And the same as how do we attract more students? If a student enrollment is declining again this upcoming school year, of course, that has direct impact on SEG and is directly a problem. So that's the reason why Dr. Layton, I think the correct word is, how do we right size the school district? As a real concrete example, I want to give you food services. So food services was highly deficitary. Now it's still deficitary, but not anymore in the $700,000, but in the $300,000. And what was all through right sizing the food operation. And now there is nothing to do anymore. We will have a deficit in food because we can't, and we don't want to cut more cooks, because that would mean literally less good of food. And I know how important food is for the school board. So I need to come up with an idea how to manage that deficit, not from SAG, and I might have some ideas. But as you said, yes, it needs to be watched. We cannot continue in perpetuum like this. But as said, interest on the revenue side, unknown. Expenditure side, it's budgeted, doesn't mean it's spent. Actuals might be different, we don't know. So I feel comfortable with this budget, but I can say, yes, we can execute it like this. That's my true belief. And also, even if we would execute it, when we have enough time to revisit, see, okay, what do we need to do for fiscal year 28? We came down, I believe, from a shy of $2 million now to a proposed $800,000, which significantly less.
That's right.
If we wouldn't have done anything, TAOS would have overspent, please recall the benefit situation, I think easily $3 million. And then you would be immediately into the scenario you don't want to have. So all of that is avoided. So please don't forget how much the benefit really hit us.
On that same note, again, because of inflation, it's there, but also it is going to be a good practice that we buy what we need, what we absolutely need, and that's goes down all the way down. I know that you're watching very carefully, but again, people, our staff needs to understand that we are are being very watchful and very frugal. And we have a good budget. We plan to spend wisely and move forward for this next fiscal year.
If I could just add, Dr. Martin, so I think it was really important that you were able to identify the amount of SCG money that is appropriated for each school site and share that information and train the site administrators, make them aware of that, give them ownership of their budget by establishing the organizational chart and associating those costs with each school site. With the work that you've done over the course of your time here, I only see things improving, making people aware, giving them ownership, and identifying also, for example, the athletic budget. This is the first time we've had an identified athletic budget. We've gone through each program. If it's girls varsity volleyball or boys JV basketball, they all know the amount of money that they have to work with, and they got to work within those means. Also identifying the amount of money we were spending on headed coaches and making sure that coaches are aware that we have so much allotted for transportation and anything above and beyond that they need to do fundraising for that. So I think the ownership that each school site administrator has been given of their budget and the understanding of that is really going to help us stay in conformity with the amount of money that they have to utilize.
So before we close the topic, so I hope that in the school board meeting, I hope that one of you makes a motion to sign the 901B10, which is the official signature for the PED form that you approve the budget, that I can send our budget to PED. It would be very much appreciated.
Thank you. Okay, so any more questions, comments? With that, the last item on our finance committee meeting is adjournment. I'll go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a second from Member King. Please call for the roll.
Board Member King,
Yes.
Secretary Trujillo, Vice President Spray,
Yes.
President Flores.
Yes. Okay, and we have a school board meeting starting in 2 minutes. No.